These 5 gardening techniques will change the way you grow sustainable food. So first up, we have organic gardening. This is kind of the starting place of sustainable growing. And the first big point is removing those synthetic ides. That means pesticides, fungicides, and insecticides. So you want to focus on different techniques that will supplement for these synthetic deterrents. So a few of these ideas would be like crop rotation, biological control, which uses other insects to kill the pest insects. You can also look into things like natural pesticides or even a thing called companion planting. And it's just best to avoid these because you for sure don't want to consume this, and this is definitely not good for beneficial insects or other animals. One of the main goals of organic is sustainable practices. Organic gardening is more of a long term process. It takes time to reach your planting goals. One of the sustainable practices is finding ways to conserve resources. This could be with water by using drip irrigation or mulching to conserve the water, and also by avoiding using synthetic inputs and focusing on using more natural ones instead. Soil health is of huge importance. The goal of the soil is to be capable of raising great plants and also being healthy enough not to harbor a lot of diseases. You're really going to want to focus on adding organic matter. This could be through green manure, compost. This way you can enrich the soil with plenty of nutrients that will supply your plants throughout the whole growing life cycle. By keeping the soil healthy, the microbials in it will help break down that organic matter and turn it into nutrient rich soil for the plants to use. And the last thing is just make sure you avoid synthetic fertilizers and chemicals, as this doesn't provide anything for the ecosystem that lives underground. Companion planting and intercropping are just two ways of providing habitats for these beneficial insects. By having a variety of plants in your garden, this helps support a lot of biodiversity, which in turn reduces pests and disease pressure. And the last thing is making sure you don't use GMO seeds or plants. Just be cautious to make sure they're GMO free. Our second gardening technique is permaculture. The definition of permaculture when it relates to gardening is an approach that designs agricultural systems modeled on natural ecosystems. So it focuses on sustainability, self sufficiency, and harmony with nature, integrating land, resources, people, and the environment through mutually beneficial relationships. So now let's break down what that really means. So when planning your garden, you'll want to create systems that are ecologically sustainable and self-sufficient. This could be using natural patterns and relationships found in the ecosystem. So by using diverse planting, this cultivates a variety of plants in your garden, which helps mimic the diversity of the natural ecosystem. Another practice we can relate this to would be companion planting, where you plant two or more plant species in the same area to help benefit each other. Another way is using polycultures. The goal here is to have more than one plant in an area. The next thing to focus on for permaculture is energy efficiency. So, what you're trying to do is minimize the energy you use by using renewable resources and reducing your waste. You can do this by designing your gardens to capture and store energy. One way is through a passive solar design. In permaculture, water maintenance is also of high importance. You can implement water saving techniques like rainwater harvesting or swales. When designing your garden, you'll want to focus on the best way to retain water. Like organic gardening, soil health is also very important. You can increase the fertility of your soil through composting, mulching, or any other organic methods. You'll also want to avoid disturbing the soil too much and promote biodiversity. And this brings us to our third technique, which is so our goal no-dig here gardening. Is soil preservation. You're trying to maintain the soil structure through the least amount of soil disturbance possible. This way you can have a healthy soil that provides for your microbial life. Some of the best ways of enhancing the soil fertility is through decomposition of organic matter. You can do this by layering compost, mulch, and other organic matters on top of the soil. Materials like leaves or kitchen scraps can be found around your house, or you can even get some straw to layer on top of your beds. This brings us to our third point that no dig gardening focuses on, and that is weed suppression. So, with these thick layers of organic matter on top of your soil, by continuing to have soil cover, this minimizes the need for weeding. Like many of our other techniques, point number 4 is water conservation. So, using this organic material on top of your soil is like mulching, and this helps retain a lot of moisture. And also, by not disturbing the soil, you don't open up that soil to be easily evaporated. And the last point for no dig gardening is the focus on biodiversity and companion planting. By planting a diverse set of plants, this helps promote the microbial ecosystem under the soil. You can also focus on integrating other beneficial insects into your garden. As some of the other ones we've gone over give more general practices, this is a more specific one, and that is Hugelkultur, if I'm saying that right. So this technique focuses on raised bed gardening. And before you even put soil, you want to layer logs and other organic matter at the bottom of your raised bed. You'll kind of want to put them in like a mound or hill shape. So after placing these logs in a mound shape, you'll want to cover them with soil and compost. So the goal here is to use that wood as a natural source of nutrients that slowly releases for plants to use. Through this natural decomposition of the logs, this will hopefully promote microbial activity and aeration of your soil. This technique can also help with watering, as the logs act like sponges as they hold in moisture for like droughts or warmer parts of the season. Many times, nitrogen rich materials like green manure or green compost are added to this mound to help accelerate this decomposition process. So, the goal of this practice is to reduce the need for other amendments, like adding more nutrients to the soil or even not having to provide as much water. In this way, you can create a more sustainable gardening method that requires less inputs, minimal maintenance, and higher yields. And the last one, which is one of my favorites, is companion planting. This focuses on your plant's compatibility with other plants. So you want to pair plants that are mutually beneficial to each other, like providing nutrients for the other or providing other helpful benefits like pest control. Speaking of pest control, pest management would be another goal of companion planting. So by using certain plants like marigolds or onions, you can either repel pests from certain crops or by using a specific plant to trap insects from going to the actual plants that you want to protect. So some pest repellent herbs would be like mint or basil. So you want to focus on moving plants around and using specific plants in certain areas to accumulate nutrients. One of these are like beans or peas. These fix nitrogen into the soil, which can provide nutrients for plants next to them, or after they die, provide nutrients in the ground for the next crop you plant. And that's also why it's good to rotate the crops so you don't have heavy feeders in one area all the time, sucking up all the nutrients. Also, by having other plants like flowers, this can provide a habitat for beneficial insects that will help kill off those bad insects next to your other plants. And the last point is using complementary growth habits, like using two plants that either grow in different spaces, like my peas and carrots here. Carrots are low lying, while peas grow up very tall and not very wide. So you want to interplant tall crops with cover crops to best maximize your space and light utilization. So by utilizing some of these practices from each of these 5 techniques, you'll definitely make your garden more sustainable and healthier overall.